Tick, tuck, tick, tuck. The rhythmic pulse of a clock echoed through Elias Krumm's workshop, each chime slicing through the heavy silence like a blade. November 1789. Prague. The air hung thick with the scent of wood and brass, and something else, a faint, almost metallic tang like ozone after a distant storm. On the workbench lay the clock, its hands spinning backward with relentless precision, thrumming with a life of their own. Elias Krumm, the reclusive master, was gone. Not simply departed, but vanished without a trace. His small, cluttered home, attached to the workshop, stood silent except for the incessant ticking of his most infamous creation. Jakob Richter, Krumm's nephew by a distant, forgotten sister, had arrived in Prague expecting little more than dusty ledgers and mundane timepieces. A meticulous cartographer from Vienna, Jakob valued order above all else. But the workshop felt alive with a subtle, disquieting energy. Cryptic notes scrawled across the bench read, "The current flows against the source," and "Unmaking the moment." One evening, as gas lamps flickered low, casting dancing shadows that mimicked the city's spires, Jakob accidentally brushed against a loose lever on the strange clock. A faint hum resonated through the room, and then, for a split second, a vision materialized before him. A woman standing in a field of sunflowers, her face etched with sorrow. Her eyes locked onto his, and for a heartbeat, he felt the weight of centuries pressing down upon him. Then she was gone, leaving only the faint scent of sunflowers lingering in the air. Jakob, a man who believed only in what could be measured and drawn, felt a cold dread creep into his bones. This was no ordinary mechanism. It was a window, or perhaps a key, to something profoundly unsettling. The magistrate, Pultus, pressed Jakob for answers. "A strange man, your uncle," he muttered nervously. "Always working, always so focused. Why had Elias Krumm vanished? What was the true nature of the backward-spinning clock, and what did the fleeting vision mean?" As Jakob stared at the clock, its hands suddenly froze mid-tick, and then, impossibly, they began to move forward. But faster, until the room itself seemed to warp and blur around him. To understand the enigma of Elias Krumm, one must first delve into the peculiar circumstances that shaped him. Born in 1745 to a family of modest means, Elias grew up amidst Prague's labyrinthine streets, a city where science and superstition danced an uneasy waltz. His father, a blacksmith by trade, often repaired the intricate mechanisms of church bells and municipal clocks, sparking young Elias's fascination with gears and motion. By the age of 12, Elias had already dismantled and rebuilt every clock within reach, earning both admiration and whispers of unease from neighbors. "He sees patterns where others see chaos," remarked Father Ignatius Dvorak, a Jesuit scholar who occasionally tutored Elias in mathematics. But there is something unnatural about his precision. As Elias matured, so too did his obsession with time, not merely as a measurement but as a force to be understood, perhaps even controlled. He apprenticed under master horologist Franz Weber, learning the art of crafting timepieces so exquisite they became sought after by nobility across Europe. Yet while Weber prided himself on instruments of order and predictability, Elias harbored a darker ambition. According to Dr. Helena Novikova, a modern historian specializing in Enlightenment-era technology, Krumm's surviving journals reveal a mind consumed not just with mechanical innovation, but with metaphysical speculation. He believed time was not linear but cyclical, layered and malleable, an ocean waiting to be navigated. This belief began manifesting in subtle ways during his early career. Clients reported strange occurrences surrounding his clocks. Sudden, temperature drops when they chimed midnight, or dreams that seemed unnervingly vivid after sleeping near them. While some dismissed these accounts as fanciful gossip, others whispered of curses. The social climate of 1789 Prague. To comprehend the significance of Krumm's work, one must consider the era in which he lived. The late 18th century was a time of profound intellectual upheaval. Across Europe, Enlightenment ideals were challenging traditional hierarchies, yet old superstitions clung stubbornly to life. In Prague, alchemy still held sway among certain circles, blending seamlessly with emerging scientific disciplines. Prague was unique, writes Professor Martin Lang, author of Clockwork Shadows, Mysticism and Mechanism in Central Europe. It was a crucible where rationality and mysticism collided, creating fertile ground for individuals like Krumm to explore ideas that defied categorization. Against this backdrop, Elias withdrew further into isolation. His workshop became a sanctuary, insulated from the skepticism and fear that his experiments increasingly provoked. The first signs of the impossible lay. First documented anomaly occurred in 1773 when Countess Ludmila von Hohenberg commissioned a grand astronomical clock for her estate. Upon installation, witnesses claimed the device displayed constellations that hadn't appeared in centuries. One servant swore she saw the face of her deceased husband reflected in its glass casing. Countess Ludmila, unsettled yet intrigued, wrote extensively about the incident in her private correspondence. "It is as if the clock knows things it cannot possibly know," she confided to a friend. "I feel watched whenever I enter the room." Though the Countess eventually returned the clock, word of its peculiarities spread. Wealthy patrons began seeking out Krumm not for his craftsmanship, but for the mysteries his creations seemed to embody. Among them was Baroness Amalia Richter, Jakob's great-aunt, who briefly employed Elias before abruptly severing ties. Her reasons remain unclear, though fragments of her diary hint at an argument over forbidden knowledge. Supporting characters, voices from the past alongside. Elias stood a handful of key figures whose lives intertwined with his legacy. Chief among them was Rabbi Isaac Lowe, a distant acquaintance rumored to have advised Elias on matters of Kabbalistic numerology. "Time is a river," Lowe allegedly told him, "but beware those who seek to dam it, lest they drown in their own hubris." Another influential figure was Margaret Schiller, a widowed herbalist who supplied Elias with rare minerals used in his clockworks. Local lore suggests she may have been more than a supplier. Some claim she shared his fascination with bending natural laws, though no concrete evidence survives. Building credibility. Through documentation, modern researchers continue to piece together Elias Krumm's story through fragmented records. Archival documents from Prague's municipal archives include receipts for peculiar materials, such as lodestone and powdered amber, sketches annotated with cryptic symbols, and letters exchanged with contemporaries. While skeptics argue Krumm was merely a brilliant eccentric, notes physicist Dr. Anja Petruska, supporters maintain his work anticipated concepts explored in quantum mechanics 2 centuries later. Whether or not his clocks truly manipulated time remains debatable, but the questions they raise are undeniably profound. As Jakob sifted through these remnants of his uncle's life, he couldn't shake the feeling that each discovery brought him closer to understanding not just Elias's disappearance, but the nature of reality itself. By the mid-1780s, Elias Krumm's name had become synonymous with both brilliance and unease. His clocks, once coveted by aristocrats for their beauty and precision, now carried whispers of danger. Rumors spread like wildfire through Prague's taverns and salons. A merchant claimed one of Krumm's pocket watches caused him to relive the same hour repeatedly. A priest swore his church bell tolled backward after installing a Krumm mechanism. The most infamous incident occurred in 1785 at the estate of Baron Wilhelm von Eckardt. During a lavish soiree, the Baron unveiled a custom-made astronomical clock crafted by Elias. As guests marveled at its intricate design, the room suddenly grew cold. Witnesses reported seeing shadowy figures moving across the walls, figures resembling people long dead. One guest, Countess Sophie Albrecht, fainted upon recognizing her late husband among them. News of the event reached local authorities, prompting an investigation led by Magistrate Pultus himself. "We must ensure public safety," Pultus declared, though his nervous demeanor betrayed deeper concerns. He ordered all Krumm clocks confiscated pending review, but many vanished before officials could act, either spirited away by loyal patrons or hidden by Elias himself. Institutional scrutiny and skeptical backlash. The scrutiny only fueled division. Academics debated whether Krumm's creations represented groundbreaking innovation or reckless folly. Professor Heinrich Bauer of Charles University condemned the clocks as dangerous distractions from true scientific progress, while philosopher Dr. Eva Havel argued they challenged humanity to rethink its relationship with time itself. Religious leaders were equally divided. Father Dvorak, who once praised Elias's intellect, now warned congregants against dabbling in forces beyond mortal comprehension. "Time is God's domain," he preached. "To tamper with it is to invite ruin." Meanwhile, Jakob Richter found himself caught between these opposing viewpoints. Each discovery about his uncle's life pulled him deeper into uncertainty. A letter from Margareta Schiller hinted at experiments involving temporal resonance, a concept Jakob struggled to grasp, let alone accept. Yet the more he resisted, the more undeniable the evidence became. A personal toll, Jakob's descent into doubt. For Jakob, the weight of unraveling Elias's secrets began to wear thin. Sleep eluded him, plagued by vivid dreams of sunflower fields and fleeting glimpses of the sorrowful woman. By day, he pored over cryptic notes and blueprints, searching for answers. By night, he wrestled with questions that defied logic. Could time truly be manipulated? And if so, at what cost? His meticulous nature, once a source of pride, now felt like a liability. Where others saw chaos, Jakob sought order, but order seemed increasingly elusive. Even simple tasks, like cataloging Elias's tools, left him shaken. One evening, while examining a set of finely tuned gears, Jakob noticed something strange. Faint etchings on their surface, forming patterns that resembled ancient runes. "These aren't just decorations," he muttered aloud, tracing the markings with trembling fingers. "They're instructions, or warnings." Voices from both sides as tensions escalated. Voices from all sides weighed in on the controversy. Renowned physicist Dr. Karl Meissner dismissed the claims outright. If Krumm's devices truly altered time, we'd see measurable effects, not hearsay and hysteria. But others weren't so quick to dismiss. Dr. Helena Novakova, whose research has shed light on Krumm's methods, offered a more nuanced perspective. What if the changes weren't physical, but psychological? What if Krumm's clocks didn't alter time itself, but rather our perception of it? Supporting this theory was an account from Anna Weber, daughter of Elias's former mentor Franz Weber. In a recently uncovered memoir, she described how her father's health deteriorated after collaborating with Elias. "He aged years in mere months," she wrote. "His mind unraveled, as though memories no longer belonged to him." The breaking point, a vision, too real. The turning point came one stormy night when Jakob decided to test the backward-spinning clock himself. Ignoring the creeping dread in his chest, he adjusted the dials according to instructions scrawled in Elias's hand. The room darkened, the air thickened, and then, abruptly, everything stopped. When Jakob opened his eyes, he wasn't in the workshop anymore. He stood in a sunflower field bathed in golden light. Before him was the woman from his visions, her sorrowful gaze piercing his soul. She spoke without words, her message clear. You cannot undo what has been done. Then, as quickly as it began, the vision faded. Jakob collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. The clock lay silent, its hands frozen at midnight. Escalating stakes. Beyond personal consequences, word of Jakob's experience somehow reached Magistrate Pultus, who summoned him immediately. This madness ends now, Pultus insisted, his usual nervousness replaced by outright panic. Your uncle's work threatens not just individuals, but the very fabric of society. People are afraid, Richter, afraid of what they don't understand. Yet even as pressure mounted, Jakob couldn't abandon his quest. The pieces were coming together too neatly or chaotically to ignore. He realized now that Elias hadn't vanished by choice. Something had taken him, pulled him into the tangled web of his own creation, and whatever it was, it wanted Jakob next. Jakob knew he couldn't escape the pull of the clock any longer. The visions, the cryptic notes, the warnings, all pointed to one undeniable truth. Elias Krumm hadn't merely disappeared. He had been consumed by his own obsession. And now, Jakob stood at the threshold of that same abyss. Armed with fragments of his uncle's journals and Margaret Schiller's mineral ledger, Jakob returned to the workshop late one night. He lit every lamp, casting harsh light across the cluttered space. At the center of it all sat the backward spinning clock, its hands eerily still. But Jakob could feel it, the hum beneath his fingertips, the pulse of something alive waiting to be unleashed. Using instructions pieced together from Elias's scattered writings, Jakob began adjusting the dials. Each movement sent ripples through the air, as though the fabric of reality itself was stretching thin. The temperature plummeted, frost forming on the windows despite the warmth outside. Shadows danced along the walls, twisting into shapes both familiar and alien. Then, with a final turn of the dial, the clock sprang to life. Its hands spun wildly, not just backward but in erratic spirals, defying logic. A deafening roar filled the room, and Jakob felt himself being pulled forward, or perhaps backward, into a vortex of light and sound. The truth unveiled. When the chaos subsided, Jakob found himself standing in a place that defied description. It was neither past nor future, neither dream nor waking world. Before him loomed Elias Krumm, gaunt and hollow-eyed, yet unmistakably alive. Jakob, Elias whispered, his voice echoing as if from great distances. You shouldn't have come. Through fragmented dialogue, Elias revealed the horrifying cost of his experiments. The clocks weren't just tools, they were gateways, portals into layers of time that should never intersect. In his quest to understand and control these forces, Elias had torn holes in the veil, separating realities. Every moment you try to change creates another fracture, Elias explained, and each fracture pulls more of us in. I thought I could master it, but instead, it mastered me. As proof, Elias showed Jakob glimpses of alternate timelines, worlds where Prague lay in ruins, where history unfolded differently, and where people lived lives they didn't recognize. Among these fractured realities, Jakob saw the sorrowful woman again, her face hauntingly clear. She wasn't just a figment of his imagination. She was a guardian of sorts, tasked with maintaining the balance Elias had disrupted. A choice beyond measure. Elias offered Jakob a choice. destroy the clock and seal the fractures forever, or attempt to repair them, risking everything to restore what had been lost. There was no guarantee either option would succeed, and both carried devastating consequences. With trembling hands, Jakob chose destruction. Guided by Elias's reluctant instruction, he dismantled the clock piece by piece, each gear releasing a burst of energy that rippled outward. The workshop shook violently, objects flying off shelves as time itself seemed to unravel around them. As the final cog fell away, Elias vanished without a word, his fate unknown. Jakob collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath as the room settled back into eerie silence. The clock was gone, but so too were the visions, the whispers, the relentless ticking. For the first time in weeks, there was peace. Immediate aftermath, burden of knowledge. Days later, Jakob reported the workshop empty to Magistrate Pultus, claiming an accidental fire had destroyed everything. Though skeptical, Pultus accepted the explanation, eager to close the case and move on. But Jakob couldn't forget. The experience had left him changed, his once unshakable belief in order shattered. He returned to Vienna but found little solace in his maps and charts. Every line he drew felt like a fragile illusion, a mere approximation of a reality far more complex than he'd ever imagined. In secret, Jakob preserved one small artifact from the workshop, a single gear etched with ancient runes. It served as both a reminder and a warning, a testament to the dangers of seeking answers to questions humanity may not be ready to face. Though Elias Krumm vanished into obscurity, his influence lingered like a shadow cast across centuries. Fragments of his journals resurfaced in private collections, sparking debates among historians, physicists, and philosophers alike. His clocks, once feared as harbingers of chaos, became symbols of humanity's eternal quest to understand the unknowable. Modern researchers continue to grapple with the implications of Krumm's experiments. Physicist Dr. Anya Petruska suggests that while manipulating time remains speculative, exploring temporal perception offers valuable insights into human cognition. What Krumm tapped into may not have been time itself, but the brain's ability to process memory and anticipation, she explains. His work challenges us to rethink how we perceive reality. Others, such as philosopher Dr. Victor Langstrom, argue that Krumm's story highlights a deeper existential dilemma. If we could undo our mistakes, would we lose the essence of who we are? He muses. Time is not just a measurement, it's the framework of identity. To tamper with it is to risk unraveling everything that makes us human. Even today, echoes of Krumm's obsession resonate in fields as diverse as quantum mechanics and metaphysics. Scientists studying closed time-like curves, CTCs, acknowledge parallels between their theories and Krumm's cryptic notes about temporal resonance. Meanwhile, spiritual seekers point to his work as evidence of realms beyond conventional understanding. Yet for all the academic discourse, the true weight of Krumm's legacy lies not in scholarly debate, but in the quiet moments when individuals confront their own relationship with time. The sorrowful woman Jakob encountered, the guardian of fractured realities, remains an enigma, her presence a reminder that some mysteries exist not to be solved, but to inspire reverence. In the end, the story of Elias Krumm is more than a tale of ambition and hubris. It is a meditation on humanity's enduring struggle to reconcile order with chaos, knowledge with mystery, and control with surrender. What does it mean to truly accept the passage of time, with its fleeting joys, inevitable losses, and infinite possibilities? As Jakob Richter discovered, some truths transcend explanation. The clock he dismantled was not merely a machine, but a mirror reflecting humanity's deepest desires and fears. To measure time is to seek mastery over it. To manipulate it is to flirt with destruction. And yet, to let go entirely, to embrace the flow without resistance, is perhaps the greatest challenge of all. Today, as we navigate an era defined by technological advancement and existential uncertainty, Krumm's legacy invites us to pause and reflect. Are we creators or destroyers of our own destinies? Do we dare to peer beyond the veil of what we know, even if doing so risks unraveling the fabric of our lives? Somewhere in a field of sunflowers bathed in golden light, a woman watches silently. Her sorrow is not for herself, but for those who seek to bend time to their will, for she knows the cost of such ambitions. And though her warnings remain unspoken, they echo through history, urging us to tread carefully where angels fear to venture. For time, after all, waits for no one.